Dream big and dare to fail.
Believe you can, and you're halfway there.
Turn your wounds into wisdom.
Journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
You never fail until you stop trying.
The only impossible journey is the one you never begin.
Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible.
Have enough courage to start and enough heart to finish.
Try again. Fail again. Fail better.
In the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity.
No great thing is created suddenly.
Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself.
Giving up is not an option.
Welcome to Failure Isn't Fatal, a Fall and Rise podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Laudenberg, and I'm back here again with Mike Casale. Last time we talked to Mike about his drug addiction as a child. Today we're here to talk to Mike about something a little bit more heartstring tugging, as Mike would say. We're going to talk about, well, I'll just let Mike tell this story. So, we're here to talk about your dad passing.
Yeah.
So let's go back, and in our previous podcast, you had mentioned that your parents were divorced, and you were living with your mom during the time of your drug addiction. And then when I met you, you were living with your dad. So why don't we start back up to that a little bit, and how you ended up living with your dad from living with your mom.
So my mom ended up moving out of town. She ended up moving out to the valley, and I didn't want to move with her, so I had the option to either move up with my mom or go live with my dad. My parents divorced when I was 10, so from 10 until 18 I didn't live with my dad. So I figured I will try and live with him, see what that's like, and just give it a shot, see how it goes.
Okay, because when I met you, you were living with your dad, and your dad were really close when I met you, the two of you.
Yeah.
So it wasn't always that way. You guys weren't always that close when you were a kid. It wasn't until you moved in with him that you got closer.
It wasn't. Well, looks can be deceiving. We looked really close on the outside, but there were a lot of problems, especially in the beginning. From the beginning when I first met you.
Yeah.
We'd only lived together for maybe a year before I met you. So we were still kind of figuring out how to learn how to live with each other, being father and son. Because his lifestyle was completely different than mine. And there were a lot of ups and downs on that one. But yeah, me and my dad, at the end, we did end up becoming very close with each other.
Right, that's what I remember.
Yeah.
I always liked your dad. I spent a lot of time at your house. I spent a lot of time getting to know your dad, and your dad was a great guy.
Yeah.
Needless to say.
Yeah, he was a good dad. For all of his flaws.
So then let's just jump right into this. So you lived with your dad, and then it was 2014?
February 10th, 2014. So we just passed the 8th year anniversary. 8 years.
8 years flies by.
God, don't I know.
So let's back up a few, because I know the 10th was the day of his passing. I know that this starts prior to that. How long was he in the hospital for? Was it about a week?
He was in the hospital for 7 days.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I remember being there that night when your dad first went into the hospital, and that was an unusual night just for us to be even hanging out inside your house, because that's not something we normally did. We were always either in the garage or not at the house at all.
Yeah.
And so I know I remember that night pretty well. I can only imagine how well you remember it.
Unfortunately, I remember that night like it was yesterday.
So, why don't you go ahead and walk us through that night?
So we, like Maddie said, we were all hanging out at my house, which was unusual to be inside of my house. Usually we always just hung out in the garage. But this night we were upstairs playing pool, and I think we were watching a movie.
I believe so. Yeah, I couldn't tell you what movie it was.
You know, neither can I. The night got kind of ruined.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad. And we were all playing pool, and my dad had come up. He had a friend with him, and he decided that he wanted to play one game of pool with me. So I said, okay, cool. Never ends well with me. I always lose. My dad is a secret pool shark. He just doesn't tell anyone.
He was good.
I think I've only beat him like 3 times in the years I've played with him. So we played a game of pool. Him and his friend, they go into the room, and me and you and I can't remember who else was there.
I want to say
Jenny and Steve.
Steve. Yeah, I was gonna say Steve was there.
So we were all decided after the game of pool we were going to stay upstairs and watch a movie, which I don't think we've ever done.
Up to date, I don't think we had ever done that before, and I don't think we ever did it again after either.
No. So we were all sitting up there and watching a movie. Probably about 15 minutes after that game that my dad and I had played, we hear 2 real loud thuds, and his friend comes running out saying he's fallen, he collapsed, I don't know what's wrong with him. And I run in there, and sure enough, he's having a heart attack.
Yeah, like you said, I remember the thuds, and yeah, she came out. She was panicking. Obviously, she didn't know what was going on, and just to open the door and see him, that was it's crazy. It was dramatic for sure. It's not something that you ever expect to experience in your life.
No, that was something I didn't expect at all. Just because my dad was, as far as I know, my dad was in great shape.
He seemed pretty fit.
Great health. He
took care of himself fairly well, from what I remember.
I mean, he's in the gym 6 days a week.
Yeah.
I mean, he could outwork me, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, she ran out, and I ran in the room and saw that he was basically laying on the floor. As soon as I saw it, I pretty much instantly knew that he was having a heart attack. I called out for you, told you to call 911, and I've never given anyone CPR before. So now this poor lady, this poor dispatcher, is now sitting there trying to talk me through how to give CPR on my dad, just laying there.
Yeah,
So,
I remember, going through all that and you doing CPR, and I remember he just wasn't breathing, and then every once in a while he would just let out a huge gasp.
Yeah.
And just breathe in like a, not very often at all, only a handful of times.
I honestly, a lot of that stuff, like the little details, were kind of a blur for me.
Yeah, well, you were in the zone. You did CPR until the paramedics got there.
Yeah, I had to do CPR for I think about 8.5 minutes.
Yeah.
The dispatcher stayed on the phone with me the whole time, sitting there trying to talk me through all of my panickedness.
Yeah, trying to keep you calm. Yeah.
Yeah, and
you did fairly well for considering the situation. It's a rough situation to be in.
yeah. And then I'm sure once the paramedics showed up and they saw the look on my face, it was like, help me.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot going on from that point on. With, what we thought was going to be a nice, quiet night in definitely changed very quickly.
It changed in literally a heartbeat.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say that.
And I think we were actually supposed to go out to a car show that night.
Yeah,
And
I think so.
We canceled going to the car show
Yep.
to go play pool,
Yep.
which we never missed out on car shows.
No, we went to every single one.
Yeah. So for us to be there, be upstairs, unheard of.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we weren't able to save him.
No.
But at least we were there, which I take as a good thing. Because who knows what would have happened if we hadn't been there. That his friend was in a total panic. I don't think she even thought of calling 911 or anything like that. She was just in total shock.
She was in complete shock. She was the same as everyone else there. She had no idea really what to do. But once the paramedics showed up, they obviously they took over. They were able to get a pulse after, I can't remember if it was a shot of adrenaline or they did the paddles.
I want to say adrenaline. I don't remember paddles being present, but
They definitely
who
were.
knows?
I know the
I
paddles.
mean, I don't remember them being ever used.
They were used once or twice. So I believe they gave him a shot of adrenaline or whatever it was that jumpstarted his heart again. He took a couple of breaths and then he flatlined again. And then after that, they brought the paddles out or the shocking equipment. I can't remember what the name of it is.
AED.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they brought those out. They did that a couple of times. And they were finally able to get a pulse and it was stable. So they basically they wasted no time and they rushed him out of the house. When they rushed him out of the house, they sat there and told me we're taking him to Torrance Memorial. So
They ended up taking him to a different hospital, right?
they ended up taking him to a different hospital. So everyone jumped in the car. I called my mom, and my mom rushes down. We all show up at Torrance Memorial. Now you've got a 23-year-old kid standing there saying, hey, my dad's just been admitted for a heart attack. And they sit there and they tell me, we don't have anyone here.
Yeah. I remember there was a lot of confusion.
No one's here by that name. No one came in at that age for a heart attack. So now I'm sitting there going, where the hell is he?
Right. A lot of aggression. Which, understandably.
Yeah, it's not like I beat the ambulance here.
Yeah.
So the poor lady that was behind the counter, I still feel bad to this day because she's got a scared as hell 23-year-old kid just
Yelling. I remember just screaming at this poor lady.
And I feel so bad for her, but I was in shock. I didn't know what the hell was going on.
You're trying to find your dad, and she's telling you that your dad's not there.
Yeah, and they can't. And she's calling around to the other hospitals, and nobody has him. He's nowhere to be found.
Right.
I'm like, did this ambulance just fall off the face of the earth?
Yeah, exactly. He was just gone. They said, "Hey, we're taking him," and then he just disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it was a good while before we found him.
About a half hour.
Yeah.
So then eventually she gets a call back from a different hospital. Says, no, he's admitted here. He had another heart attack in the ambulance. So their protocol is go to the first hospital, the closest hospital.
Yep.
Closest hospital happened to be a mile down the street from my house. Why they didn't take him there to begin with, I don't know.
I don't know how that works. If anybody drives an ambulance for a living out there, maybe you can reach out to us and shed some light on that. Actually, that's something we never even asked anybody. But I don't know how that all works. Well, you would think that they would have taken him there in the first place because it was literally a mile down the road, whereas Torrance Memorial was at least a good 3 to 4 miles away, if not 5.
Yeah, probably something like that. So that's the reason why they couldn't find him. They couldn't find him because he wasn't admitted yet because he had had a heart attack in the ambulance. So he coded when they brought him in.
Yeah.
So they have no idea who this guy is. He's got no wallet.
Yeah.
He's got nothing on him. So eventually they put two and two together and said, "Hey, it's this is the guy that this kid is looking for."
Yeah.
So we show up to Torrance Memorial.
Little company mayor.
No, sorry.
No.
Kaiser.
Kaiser.
We showed up to
yeah.
Kaiser. Too many hospitals.
Too many hospitals, yeah.
So we show up to Kaiser, and before I showed up to Kaiser, he had another heart attack.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, he had quite a few.
So in that time frame, he had 4 heart attacks.
Within the span of what, an hour and a half, maybe?
Maybe less than that.
Yeah.
I want to say it didn't take us very long to go from Torrance Memorial to Kaiser.
Yeah, probably maybe an hour 15 at most.
Yeah, I'd say an hour at most.
Yeah.
So he had 4 major heart attacks within an hour. When I finally got there, they said he was now stable, everything was fine, and that they put him in the ICU, where he spent the next 7 days,
Yeah.
which you were present for all 7 days.
Also, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, your dad was a great guy, so
Yeah, he loved making everyone laugh, and he loved his jokes.
he did. And he had some good ones.
Yeah, we all know your favorite.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit though. But let's continue. So, I like you said, I spent a lot of time at the hospital over the next 7 days with you, but I don't think, at least from my memory, I don't think your dad ever spoke again after that.
No.
That was
So for him, because I guess it was a major heart attack, they put him in an induced coma.
right.
And then they put a cooling blanket over his body, lowered his body temperature to reduce brain swelling,
Mhm.
and then I guess they slowly raised it back up to normal body temperature.
Yeah.
But he never spoke another word. Every once in a while he would kind of like grunt or groan, and that always kind of was like, oh, well, there he is.
Yeah.
He's waking up.
A little bit of hope.
Yeah, it was always a little bit of hope, but just never. It was never anything more than that.
Yeah.
And after the 5th day, the doctor had called me in and basically told me that there was no brain activity. He was brain dead. He went too long without oxygen.
Yeah.
So then I have to make the call now if I want to keep going and see if there is anything maybe in a couple of days, or if I just want to pull the plug now. I had an option.
Yeah.
So I told them, let's wait a couple more days. I think they told me that on a Friday, and I think that Monday was when I had to make a final choice to either keep going with it or pull the plug. So the doctor said that there was basically almost no hope. So I ended up having to tell the doctors to pull the plug, and he took 2 breaths on his own, and then that was it.
Yeah. That's a rough decision for a 23-year-old to make.
Yeah.
That's a rough decision for anyone to make.
Yeah.
So,
Told you it tugs on the heartstrings.
especially when you were there.
Yeah.
It brings a lot of stuff back up. So, let's continue on. Like you said, it's been 8 years now.
Been 8 years. Yeah.
So I know initially, after your dad passed, it was really hard on you. I remember you not wanting to go out and do things, which is a understandable, reaction to it. But let's talk about how you kind of came out of that. Like, what were you feeling, and then what helped you to be okay with it, to accept it, and to I don't want to say move on, because it's still very big and present. You're always going to miss your dad, but I want to talk about kind of what helps. You know what I'm saying? What helped bring you out of that initial funk?
It never goes away. It just becomes more manageable.
Right.
The day will always be there. I can bring up the thought and see it in my head. That like me sitting there giving him CPR. I was an absolute disaster for a very long time.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking probably a couple years, I would say.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, overall, you weren't yourself again, definitely for a couple of years. But it was only a couple of months before you started to come out and hang out with people again. I mean, I saw you during that couple of months. There were a very few select people that you would still hang out with. But after a couple of months, you did kind of start to broaden that up a little bit. So I just want to touch on what happened. What was that change? What was there? Some sort of realization that you had, or was it just you felt that it was time to kind of start trying to get back into things?
I only let the people who were the closest to me come over to the house, because it happened at the house.
Yeah.
I didn't want just random people that would show up, like they would before sometimes with other friends. I didn't want that anymore. I only wanted the closest people with me. And then it was something that I kind of had to force myself to do. Because at that time, you either have the option of, kind of forcing yourself to go out and do something, or just sulk and shut down completely and just exclude everyone from your life.
Yeah.
And I knew that you guys, weren't going to let that happen.
Yeah.
And I just had to put a smile on my face. I had to act like things were okay when they really weren't.
Yeah.
And that's how I did it. I've always been the type of person that just, put a smile on your face, it's fine, you'll figure it out later.
Yeah. I mean, because plus also at the same time, not only did you just lose your dad, but your dad also owned a business, and you had to then take over that business, after his passing. That became yours.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of responsibility, not just only dealing with everything that comes along with that, funerals and all the costs associated with that, and all of the heartache that comes with that, but you didn't really get a chance to just sit and sulk because you had so much to take care of that was put on your shoulders.
I never got a chance to actually mourn for the loss of my dad. It was, okay, here, your dad passed away, I'm sorry, that sucks. The next day, okay, we now have to sit there and put the business in your name.
Yeah.
Because now you are the owner of this business.
Yeah.
And being 23, I'd worked in the business for several years prior to that, but only as a manager, never as an owner.
Yeah. Now you have your manager hat and your business owner hat, and you're kind of
now
thrown into this.
Yeah, and now I'm sitting here going, whoa, okay, now I have to do this. I can't break down in the middle of working and go, hold on, everyone, I need to leave, so everyone get out of the store.
Yeah, right.
So I had to force myself to do that.
Yeah.
Every day. Never got a chance to mourn, never got a chance to, I mean, we did have a little thing for him at the house, but after that it was, okay, that's all you got. Go back to work.
Yeah, there was no real like funeral service or like anything like that. Just like you said, a little service at your house with a few close friends, and that was it.
Yeah, a few close friends and a few family members.
Yeah.
After that, it was okay. Go back to work. And what about your dad? What about him? He's gone. Let it go.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I had to force myself to do that for a few years after that, which didn't help my situation at all. In the end, it actually ended up hurting me doing that, but I had no choice. I got forced to do it.
Yeah. Right. How did that all affect your drug addiction? Going back to what we previously talked about, I know something like that can kind of trigger a lot of people, and I know you didn't go back to it because I was there.
Yeah.
But did you want to? Was that one of the thoughts that went through your head? Like,
a little bit about going back to the drugs. My main thing was I wanted to just drink my sorrows away. And I knew now I had to throw on a different hat of being a business owner. So now I can't drink my sorrows away.
mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to, but I had to fight the temptation.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nights to where you guys go home and I didn't sleep.
Yeah.
I maybe got 3 hours of sleep, maybe 4 hours of sleep, because every time I would go to sleep, I'd have a dream and I'd relive that whole night again. So I just wanted to drink the sorrows away and have just one decent night's sleep.
Yeah.
But I couldn't.
How long did you have those dreams for?
I had those dreams for probably a year.
Pretty consistently, on every night, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much every night.
Yeah.
You know, if it wasn't that time, it was, you know, it always had to go with that night.
Yeah.
That it happened.
Some sort of dream.
Yeah, there was always something.
Yeah.
Ruined relationships.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I ruined 2 relationships out of all of that. I've made amends with one of them.
Yeah.
We're civil now. The other one wants absolutely nothing to do with me, and that's perfectly fine. It was my fault.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know, shit happens.
You know, you live and you learn. Hopefully she forgives me, but what can I do?
So, after all this time, how do you feel about it now?
Most of the year, I'm fine. You know, it doesn't really bother me. I talk to people about it openly. It doesn't, you know, send me spiraling down some rabbit hole.
Right. I've heard you make a few jokes.
Yeah.
You know that's you know your own way of dealing with it. You know, I know some people might look at it as, oh, I can't believe he's making jokes about his dad that passed away, and I think it's a coping mechanism. I think that your dad was a guy who made a lot of jokes and was hardly ever serious. From what you know, I mean, obviously he had his serious moments, but I saw your dad was joking a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of your way of remembering him and kind of keeping him alive by keeping the joke going. Because I think some of the jokes your dad would definitely appreciate a lot of them.
My dad would definitely appreciate a lot of the jokes. And me and my dad used to joke around with each other.
Yeah.
You know, so we would always joke back and forth. Yeah, some people might think it's dark and, you know, not okay for me to do, but that's what he and I did.
And it's your dad, so who are they really to tell you how to deal with it? You know, it may not be appropriate to make jokes about somebody else's dad who passed, but when it's your dad and that was your kind of thing, you know, I think it's
Yeah, I can make jokes about my dad, but you can't.
Right. Exactly.
But that's how I work. It's how it works for me, because sitting there making a dad joke, you know, and then laughing about it, it's kind of like, yeah, you know, it makes me remember him.
Yeah.
You know, makes me remember some of his jokes that
Yeah.
he used to tell me.
It's a little morbid, but he would appreciate the joke. I think he would like the punchline.
My dad definitely was one for some morbid jokes.
Yes. Yeah. So most of the year you're fine, but obviously February starts to roll around, and there's kind of mixed emotions that I would imagine, because there's the passing of your father and the anniversary of that, but also at the same time your birthday, which was just a few days ago as well. Your birthday was what, 3 days after your dad passed?
9 days.
9 days.
9 days. So my dad passed away February 10th. My birthday is February 19th.
Right.
And we also have Valentine's in the middle
Yeah,
at February 14th. So
So February is kind of a place for you to be all over.
yeah, it's a big mix of emotions in the beginning of February. Some years it's better than others. This year was, okay. Like I said, it's never going to be a peachy day.
Yeah.
Never going to be able to go out and, sing Sunshine and Lollipops.
That's a good song though.
Not for dying dads. And yeah, I just kind of go through the day, do what I do. And on the 10th, I always go down to the beach and I hang out for an hour or two and yeah,
Just remember him.
yeah, just remember all of his corny jokes and his war stories he used to tell me and just everything, I have a picture of him up on my phone, so I just kind of,
Yeah.
I hang out with him one day a year.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
It'd be a little weird to bring the urn with me, but
Not really. I mean, I've seen people do some crazier things. So
I'm not that crazy. I make the dad jokes. What was the
Yeah.
dad?
I still have your dad's phone number saved in my phone, and so I still see it scrolling through my contacts, and that's what I remember him. Definitely at those times when I see that.
Yeah,
Um,
I still have his phone number in there too.
yeah, I probably always will. It's not that I'll ever forget him, but it's nice sometimes to just be scrolling through and see it and remember a joke that he told me.
Yeah. Or,
Usually one joke in particular.
oh yeah, that one always got you.
It did. Why don't you share the joke with everyone now? So maybe
Oh yeah.
maybe everybody else will appreciate it as much as I did.
Oh god. Which one was it? Was it? How do you kiss a duck's ass without getting feathers in your mouth? You have to be quick with it.
I know that one's so simple, but I always like that one. I'm a sucker for jokes.
That one, every single time my dad told that one, Maddie would just go. He would just go crazy over it.
It was all in the delivery. Mike's delivery is a little lackluster, but his dad could deliver the hell out of that punchline.
Oh, absolutely. My dad delivered most of his punchlines perfectly.
He was a very funny guy.
Yeah. Well, then again, he was also stoned a lot of the times.
Well, yes.
So maybe that's where I got it from. That's where I got the past drugs from.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's been 8 years. It's a lot of therapy. It took a lot of that. That's really what brought me kind of back to who I was again.
Yeah.
Realizing like what I'm doing isn't working, so I need to change it.
So, what do you suggest for someone else? Because this is something that's almost everyone, this is that we'll have to deal with. This is, a death of a family member or a friend, mother, father, grandmother. What do you suggest someone do when they're in that situation and they find themselves wanting to shut down completely? Someone who may not have a business that they have to take over, someone that might have the opportunity to just shut themselves away and sulk. And do you have any suggestions for maybe something that they can do to help them overcome that?
If you have the time and you have the ability to mourn for that person, take the time, but don't spend forever there. Because if you take way too long in there, you'll never get back out. And if you do, it's 10 times harder to get out of that mindset. If you stay in that mindset for too long, you're going to sit there and you're going to stay there. Take your time. You mourn. If you need to go to therapy, do it. I did it. It worked wonders for me. Everyone might be different. I don't know. But don't stay in that mourning and that sulking stage, because that's the one downfall, because you will always stay there.
I mean, so keeping on topic with like helping people that are dealing with this situation, what about friends or family members of those people who might be dealing with that loss? I know that I was there for you as well as some of our other friends, but being on this side of it, it's hard to know what do you say to that person, or how far do you push them to do things, or like to get back into the swing of things. Like, do you have any tips on how to tell someone, like, you know,
it's time for you to get back. Yeah. It's time for you to get back into the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes, you know, just like you guys would just come hang out, and sometimes you guys wouldn't say anything. We would just sit there and just sit, and that was it. And sometimes that was all I needed.
It's just the company. Even.
It's the company, you know, and then not completely acting like nothing has changed, because now your whole world is flipped upside down.
Right, so you don't want to pretend like nothing just happened, you know.
Yeah, but just sit there and just do little things. Little things that get you to distract yourself from thinking, okay, well, this just happened, you know, so now all of my attention is now on this. Just do little things. Little things like you used to do, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, if you used to, so for me, I always work on cars.
Yep. Yeah.
So
it's a big part of life.
I would always work on something. That happened. I stopped doing that.
Yeah.
Well, someone would say, "Oh, well, what about this?" Or, "Well, what about that?" You know, you guys would make little suggestions about maybe doing something, or starting a little project or something like that.
Hey, maybe, you know, for you, this was the car thing. Like you said, like, hey, you know, maybe you should look at this alternate. This car is kind of making funny noises. What do you think about this? Kind of. So I get what you're saying. Kind of guide people towards what they were passionate about before.
Yeah, and not everyone's gonna take to it, you know, the first time. Most of the time they'll probably just be like, "Oh, I don't know, I don't want to deal with that." And you just let it go for a little while, you know, day, 2, whatever. Kind of come back, do the same thing, but just with something different, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, eventually you'll find something that works.
Something that they're willing to dedicate some of their time to.
Yeah, and then once you kind of figure that out, you can kind of almost say, "Hey, well, what are you doing now? What about this?"
Yeah, kind of,
you know,
keep up down the road of distractions.
Yeah, you know, you keep up
without being pushy.
Yeah, you can't be pushy, and most of the time, most people are probably going to push you away at first because they just want to be left alone.
Yeah,
you know, and then they. You kind of have to sometimes be pushing, like, no, we're going to hang out. Like, I'm going to come hang out with you. At least that's what you guys did.
Yeah, a little pushy, you know. Yeah, obviously, you know, some alone time is good, but like you said, too much alone time is also not good.
Too much alone time, you will spiral down the rabbit hole, and you will have a very difficult time coming out of that.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to have you guys around that would always be there for me, you know, between the person that I was dating at the time and everyone else. I had really good support from my friends.
Yeah.
My family, not so much.
Well, you don't get to pick your family. And your friends are the family that you get to pick. That's how I look at it.
This is true.
And so I would suggest to everyone out there that if you think that your friends would not be there for you to support you through anything like that situation, then you need some new friends. you should take a good hard look at the people you surround yourself with, and if they're not gonna be good for you or not gonna help you in those kinds of situations or any kind of situation, just take a good hard look at the people you surround yourself with, because you never know when this situation is going to happen. We didn't expect anything to happen with Mike's dad. It came completely out of the blue. So to prepare yourself for those kinds of situations, I think the best you could do is find a good support system and make sure that you keep those people around, because you're going to need them eventually.
That's 90% of it. Just the support system. Without you guys being there, I couldn't rely on my family. My family, we're family, but they came to the service. After that, almost never talked about it afterwards. Yeah. You guys were the ones that were there for me, literally from that night up until this day. You guys have always been there for me. It's never changed. I mean, life changes, life happens.
Yeah, of course.
You got married, you move in, doing all the good stuff.
Yeah.
But I know at the end of the day, I could call you up 1 o'clock in the morning, you'd answer the phone. Not a problem. So, get the support system.
Yeah.
That's the huge part.
That's, like I said, no one can really fully prepare for a situation like that, but finding a support system now and making sure that you surround yourself with good people right now is probably the best that you could do to prepare for a situation like that.
Yeah.
Or any situation that may arise in life. Life throws curveballs all the time. So you try and be ready for them as much as you can. But I think a good friends and family support system is probably one of the most key parts to anything that life could throw at you.
Yeah. And then take the professional route with it too. Add that on top of it. They're there for a reason.
Exactly.
They literally go to training in school for things like this.
Right.
Don't
be afraid to don't be afraid to look for help in any situation area, whether it be looking for help from your friends or looking for help from a licensed therapist or a professional, or just anyone you feel comfortable talking to, really.
I went to him for years.
And
there's no shame in it.
I think a lot of people feel like there's a lot of shame in seeking help, not just looking for help, but looking for therapists. I feel like people think that's kind of like, oh, if you see a therapist, you must be crazy or you're taboo,
there's no shame in it. I mean, I kind of had the thought of it too. I also sat there and thought, oh, I don't need it. I'm okay. No.
But if you need it, go for it.
Yeah, if you need it, go for it. Yeah, most of the time you're gonna sit there and think, oh, I don't need it. I guarantee you go to that therapist or whoever it is. By the second or third time, you're gonna sit there and go, yep, I need to do this more. Yeah. This is something that's needed.
I think everybody needs someone that they can just lay everything on the table for. And if you can't do that with a close friend or family member, then you should seek a therapist who you can just, spill your guts to. It's healthy to sit here like we're doing and just talk about everything.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big points that I'm trying to get across with this podcast, is that it's okay to talk about this kind of stuff. It's not taboo, to talk about disabilities or death or anything like that, or
it's life.
It happens to pretty much everybody, and I think that's the big point that I'm trying to get across here, is that the things that one person is dealing with, everyone feels like they're dealing with it and nobody else has dealt with it, or nobody else understands or could understand. But these are things that happen to people every day, all across the world. So it's
every hour, every minute, at least with death, unfortunately, it doesn't stop.
Right.
So it's something that everyone in life is going to have to deal with. If you get a long life with your parents, amazing, awesome. Some of us, unfortunately, are not dealt with something that easy.
Yeah.
Or that lucky.
And I try to wake up every day. And, obviously I have hard times as well myself, but I try to wake up every day with gratitude. Feeling grateful that I woke up. Which is hard to do sometimes because there's, things going on in your life that you're like, it would just be easier if I didn't have to deal with it. But
I try to wake up without back pain.
that's not going to happen. Once you hit 30, that's it. Back pain is like instantaneous.
Yeah.
But I try to wake up with gratitude because you woke up today. And there's a lot of people who didn't.
No.
And
there's a lot of people who won't see the entire day.
Right. So I think that's something to be grateful for.
Yeah, I'm a lot more grateful now, realizing like, oh crap, like my dad was just here. Crap, now my dad's gone.
Yeah.
That's it. The last thing I got to do with my dad was play a game of pool.
Which I think is a nice sentiment. That was something you guys actually really enjoyed doing together and did it often. So it's kind of...
We did it all the time.
A nice little closure. Not really a closure, I guess, so to speak, but...
it's a nice memory.
If there was anything you could have spent your dad's last moments doing, I feel like that's a nice thing. The other option would be probably at a car show with your classic cars.
Yeah. I honestly, I think I'd rather play the game of pool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more intimate.
I mean, I got my ass whooped like normal, but yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah.
And I still have his pool stick.
Well.
I still have his pool stick, and I still have my pool stick. Yeah.
Well.
And I will never not be able to win another game.
Yeah.
And that's my dark, morbid humor. Don't get mad. It's okay.
Yeah. Hey. Like I said, everybody has their own way of dealing with stuff, and I think it's... like you ain't hurting nobody.
Yeah.
I think it's fine to deal with it and how you want to deal with it. And like I said, I personally knew your dad, and I know he would appreciate the hell out of those jokes.
Yeah, he would.
So,
and he'd probably add a little to it and make it his own, just because it's him.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's life.
Yeah.
Gotta make it the best.
Yeah. Well, I think that about does it. You have any final words?
Not on this one. No, I told you, this one tugs at the heartstrings, so I'm good.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you for joining us. Please subscribe. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, fallandrise.co, as well as check out our website at www.fallandrise.us. And we'll see you next time.